All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a real treat for us here on Sportswire Radio as we are now joined on our flagships, including sportnarium.com/player, also Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And he's got a lot to say for us here. And this is his first interview that he's doing of his career. And he chose us here on Sportswire Radio to do it. So this is a really, really big deal here with us. And let's get into his story because he has been a very, very busy man here when it comes to Wrestling Appreciation Society. Of course, Nonstop Action Wrestling, he even saw him in a little bit. We'll explain that here as well. So, with that, further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one, Global Sports Show. Pro wrestling star here from Wrestling Appreciation Society. He's the franchise. His name is Donnie Franchize. My friend, welcome aboard.
Thank you for having me, Tom. It's an honour to have my first interview with you, I've got to say.
Boy, I thought you were going to pick Renee Paquette. I thought you were going to pick Ariel Helwani because I was watching the Jake Paul fight, which would be this morning your time, last night my time. I would have thought you would have picked Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, but you picked us. We certainly appreciate that. And Donnie, you have been all over the news here in social media when it comes to obviously places like Nonstop Action Wrestling, Wrestling Appreciation Society. So talk about some of the things that went down because I saw you at All Hallows Eve watching, I guess, in the stands with the rest of the fans at the sold out Be Strong Performance Center there in Swinton. And I saw that apparently you were attacked, and talk about that for us here on Sportswire Radio and how that all unfolded and where do you go from here?
Yeah, so last Saturday, All Hallows Eve, got to say it was a really, really, really good show.
It was. I watched it on Instagram. Yes, I did.
They were putting on an amazing show. However, I paid my money. I sit in my seat that I rightfully paid for out of my hard-earned cash.
Gotcha.
And because of that, I'm somehow hijacking their show because I'm simply scouting my opponent for Deadline on April the 29th, Kyle Kennedy. Apparently, that's hijacking the show. I don't know. I've heard a lot of ludicrous things, but that's probably one of them. That's probably up there. And then after, Kyle naturally loses, I guess, because ever since he got beat by Conor Cage at Fire and Gold, it's been on a bit of a downhill slope. One of the society members, the newest society member, Callum Majakester.
We had him on a few days ago, yep.
Oh, I was there. I was present, Tom.
I'm aware of that. I'm well aware of that, my friend.
So, yeah, after Kyle Kennedy decided to attack an innocent crowd member, myself, the franchise, Callum, Mr. Majakester, all of a sudden decides it's a funny idea to come and steal my telephone device and shoot a little promo in the back. Which
I did see that. Yes, I did.
It was very funny. It was humorous to see him. I'd say the ugly duckling of the society with the swans of the society not even being able to, introduce his stable right and even get their catchphrase wrong. So it was funny. It was really funny and it was humorous. But at the same time, I don't think these people realise that their past actions have future repercussions because come Deadline, they will be in my venue in a show that I have helped set up behind the scenes along with new general manager Chris Walker of WAS, of Wrestling Appreciation Society. And those repercussions will, time flies when you're having fun. I'm having a lot of fun right now getting into the wrestling business and getting myself up there and trying to, grind and craft this sport that is wrestling. So as that time's going by, it's gonna very quickly come to Deadline, and those repercussions will come sooner than later, my friends of the society.
Well, I'll tell you that. We'll certainly see if there will be repercussions. And I do want to bring in our guest who was with us on Wednesday. He has something to say about your comments, and his name is Callum Jakester. And he says, it was a hilarious idea to steal your phone. He says, I'm still laughing now. Also, want to give a big shout out to another member of the Wrestling Appreciation Society roster, that is Connor Cage. And of course, Connor is always in the thick of things, whether it's in Nonstop Action Wrestling or in Wrestling Appreciation Society. And he also says, hello, gents. And Connor, we also owe an appearance to here on Sportswire. So we'll make that happen very soon. But I mean, obviously, in your house, you would imagine things would be different. So then what do you want then from Nonstop Action Wrestling? Obviously, we saw the society basically take your phone, put a number on you, certainly with Callum and Remus Kane and the lawman Kyle Kennedy we'll get to in a few minutes, and Mixed Knights and everybody else there. And certainly, they've made their cases heard here loud and clear on Sportswire, whether it's with us live or in the comment section. So what do you want then from Nonstop Action Wrestling after what happened to you last week?
As I was going to say Instagram, but all over my social medias, I responded quite heavily, I'd say. In the heat of the moment, it all just happened. But as a respectable man who understands this business as much as other silly little boys think that I don't, just because I've sat in a few seats at a few shows, I asked for a public apology. Now, not WAS. WAS have responded, but we will get to that. NSAW did respond, and although it wasn't publicly, they still had the gall and the respect to privately address this matter with me, which led to WAS. WAS and NSAW, it's common knowledge now. They're working together in collaboration for this deadline event.
Oh, well, we spoke about that weeks ago. I mean, there's no question. We've had different talent, and many of them have crossed over. Certainly, Matt Royale, I'm sure you know him, and certainly Callum himself, and Tommy Dillon we've had on in the past. I mean, it's a long list of crossovers for sure, undoubtedly.
It really is. So NSAW, WAS came together, and that was then sort of worked out to make this public announcement from our new general manager, Chris Walker, who I've got to say right now is doing a very good job, because if he can be handpicked by a man like myself behind the scenes, I'm sure he's going to do a really good job. And I told him I have my full heart on him. I believe he can do the job that I think he'll do. And he issued that announcement that me and Kyle are going to have a little private meeting. But obviously, where there's privacy, there's also going to be cameras there, because
Well, how can it be private, though? Wait. How can it be private if there's going to be cameras there? That doesn't sound private, though.
It's going to be held in a private facility. So there's going to be me, Kyle, and someone else there to make sure nothing kicks off, which is
so safe to say it won't be in Wrestling Appreciation Society's future home in Huddersfield. And then on top of that, it won't also be, let's say, in the Be Strong Performance Center in Swinton. I think it's pretty safe to say, right?
Yeah. It's going to be in an undisclosed location, because at the end of the day, we don't want nothing to... Well, I don't want anything to kick off. Whatever Kyle wants to do, that's, his motive. He can do whatever he wants. But we need to ensure that we have, an insurance policy. So by filming this meetup and this meeting to go through what's going to happen before deadline, we've got to make sure that there's evidence there, because we can't go back and forth, keep saying, you're the bad guy, you're the good guy, you did this and you did that. We don't want tit for tat. We want straight facts, and the straight facts will be there. So when this meeting goes down, yes, it will be filmed, and it possibly may be televised. But the difference...
Wow, televised. Boy, you guys are really the big time. Like I said, we're very lucky. We were able to grant this opportunity to interview you because, like I said, Ariel Hawani, I'm sure, was a phone call away. Listen, Tony Schiavone, a phone call away. Renee Paquette, Kayla Braxton. I mean, I'm sure all of them were pretty much calling you, and thankfully we were able to get that first interview here with you.
Again, Tom, I'm a fan of the show. and you know I
Appreciate
am.
that. Appreciate that very much. Appreciate that. We'll
So
certainly
yeah,
see.
it's going to be streamed out there. It's going to be on wherever. If anything goes down, that I feel the WAS audience and even the members of NSAW, Blackheart, CCW, GT Ministries, everyone else is on notice.
I'll throw the LWF, KOW, who we do work with, Bolton Town Wrestling. I mean, a number of companies that we most certainly do work with here on Sportswire Radio. And let me get to some comments. Andrew Hanley is with us here. Obviously, Andrew's always with us here for many of these shows. He says, "Good evening, everyone." Matt Royale, who I mentioned as well. Of course, Matt is going to be in the ring with the current Nonstop Action Wrestling world-class champion, the wild card Tommy Dillon, who I guess you might say is a two-time world champion, I guess now you might say, because obviously the lawman Kyle Kennedy held the title for, I guess, a brief period. We'll certainly get to him here. And also, I want to bring in Michael De Niro Knowles, who's kind of been a big fixture, and he was there at All Hallows Eve. He's been a big fixture with us here late. He says, the way this is going, it's got big match energy. I don't personally agree with the attack. You paid money to watch an event, which I did as well. And in this case, you were just an innocent bystander watching the sport of wrestling. All right, so let me come back to that. And let me then ask you this question, because this was something I did want to bring up and I did think about as we were going on the air here. So when it comes to that then, how do you think then the man behind Nonstop Action Wrestling, the chairman of the company, Joshua Snow, handled this incident? And what do you think that speaks of when it comes to his role in the company and everything to allow something like this to happen?
I mean, I have a lot of respect for Josh Snow.
Yep. He was here with us.
Behind the scenes, we've got a good working relationship, but when it comes to stuff like that, I feel like it shouldn't have elevated to the point where I have to go home and aggressively address my thoughts through a phone screen. He should have been coming up to me, giving me some kind of conversation, maybe even a refund. But because of the strong working relationship I have with Mr. Snow, I have the respect to let bygones be bygones and just let it slide. He addressed me, after the show. He sent me an email. He's texted me to make sure I'm all right, that I don't need to, go and get anything fixed up. I could have had a busted nose for all he knows. But
he could have broke your nose. Who knows what could have happened? I mean,
yeah, but like NSAW management, when it comes to those guys, I can't sit here and slander them. Something happened at their show, but it wasn't because of them. The management didn't do this. It was the society and Kyle Kennedy. So I have full respect for NSAW management. But when it comes to the society, all I've really got to say is the only society that does matter, Remus, Majakester, Richard Knight, Kyle Kennedy, is the Wrestling Appreciation Society.
ooh,
And come April, you're going to realize that very, very, very quickly.
Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, that was really, really interesting twist there. And certainly, of course, we do want to plug our friends over at Wrestling Appreciation Society, who you may follow on Instagram. You can do that by going to Instagram and going to Wrestling Appreciation Society's Instagram at WrestleSociety.hub. You can also go to Wrestling Appreciation Society on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter as well, and certainly find out all the great things that the company is doing. And let me get to a few more comments because we have them here. It's a real shame nothing was busted on you from Callum Jakes, who, by the way, since we came on the air, actually changed his Facebook photo profile. So I don't know if that means he's coming back to Sportswire soon. I don't know if he's wrestling somewhere else soon, but he did change his profile. Let me get to somebody that was actually there with you. And he says, Joshua Taylor, I sat right next to Donnie when he got one to his face, shrugged it off, and enjoyed watching the rest of the show. Top man. So obviously you could have certainly did different things, but you didn't. And certainly that could be a credit to you. And certainly you did bring up also the general manager, Chris Walker. And certainly how do you think then, after what happened with you, that he'll handle the situation differently April the 29th at deadline?
I think Chris Walker is going to be able to really put this whole thing into perspective. I think that Chris Walker is the only man out there that is going to be able to contain this big ball of energy. We're talking like over 9,000 for all you Dragon Ball geeks out there. We're talking over 9,000 amount of energy, right? That's all balled up in this one little container. When it blows up at deadline and Carl's Kennedy deadline approaches, I think Chris Walker is the man to ensure that between now and April 29th, that catastrophic boom doesn't go off too early. Because yes, it is about seeing who is, the best out of us two, but it's also putting on a show for the fans and raising money for our newly announced charity.
Which I was going to be bringing up very shortly. That's an excellent segue there for us. And we were speaking about this here off the air and talk about that because obviously people now would obviously love to support you guys. Obviously, we know how the company has started here and everything else coming to April the 29th. So for those that are listening and watching this on Sportswire Radio, talk about this new charity and how we can help and get involved to support this great cause. And of course, you guys as well at Wrestling Appreciation Society.
Yeah, so it was announced earlier on the socials this week that deadline April 29th, Saturday at the University of Huddersfield Sports Hall is going to be raising money for Cancer Research UK. Now our goal at the minute is 750. I do truly believe with all these lovely fans in attendance of the WAS audience that we could raise that above that bar. Personally, to me, inside, outside, if you want to don't cross the line of kayfabe, but if we want to smash the wall down a little bit, personally, for me, it means a lot. I've lost my mother to cancer. The equalities officer, who's going to be our key referee, Sammy Rice, their mother is now only just recovering from cancer. And that's one thing that I really think is going to add extra bite to my bark when it comes deadline. I am fighting for a cause that has unfortunately taken a big aspect of my life away. And if that means not only fighting for myself, but those that have been lost, who are fighting, who are supporting, who are looking after and taking care of those people. And it means also silencing the biggest hater I have apparently at the moment, my ex-best friend, Kyle.
Oh, well, he's with us here, so we're going to get to him shortly. So, I mean, certainly, I know he's tuned in. So, one more time, tell us what we can do and certainly be a part of this to help you guys raise the 750 pounds.
Yeah, so on the WAS committee have put a post on Instagram and on Facebook, and there's even a YouTube video out there.
Yes, I did see that as well. Yes, I
If you
did.
look for the video that says we're going to be helping and raising money for, and the picture will have like Cancer Research UK. If you look for that post, there's a link. There's even a QR code because apparently the WAS committee members are that tech they've generated their own QR code. I mean, that's a lot of effort, and I got to respect them for that. So yeah, if you just find that post, take it to a donation page, and there you are.
Well, yeah, you definitely have my support here on Sportswire Radio. Anything I can certainly do here over the coming weeks, you'll have my support if I'm able to donate through the page, and certainly I'm sure we'll be speaking with a number of the talent that certainly cross over in both companies. And if you want to follow Donnie Franchize as well, please give him a like and follow on Facebook, Donnie Franchize. Also Instagram as well, _franchise. That is with a Zihse, Donnie Franchize. I believe I got that right. Did I spell that correctly, Donnie Franchize?
That's right.
I want to make sure because I don't want to. Certainly, it's your first interview, and certainly it's the biggest one, and they always remember the first one. So I want to make sure that we got that correct. So make sure you follow them on their social media channels, and certainly we give our full support. I give my full ringing endorsement here on Sportswire Radio for that, and I will most certainly be donating here in the coming days as well for anything that I can do. But let me get to some more comments. I also mentioned the lawman, Kyle Kenny, which I'm going to get to in a second. And Michael De Niro also says here, it's over 9,000, but who's the Vegeta in this situation? The Vegeta? I don't know. We can figure that out maybe another time. Joel Bailey says, is the best around. Matt Royale says April is going to be a show for the ages. We will prove to the world that British wrestling is the best in the world, and British wrestling absolutely is the best in the world. And we're now less than 6 months away. So officially, we're already halfway home. So that means we're not that far away. So it's going to come sooner rather than later. And that means that we're not that far away, which means we're going to be very, very excited. And we're going to get to see this show very much coming, and it's going to come, and it's going to come like a ton of bricks. And Michael also says, I'm glad that this is being done for people with cancer. It's taken a big part of my life that I can barely do anything with. My dad having cancer, so I have to be there for him because I became his carrier for a few years ago. So certainly, Michael, absolutely. And I think if you look at most people in some way or another, unfortunately, almost everybody's been, I think, afflicted or impacted in some way or another when it comes to cancer. So certainly, of course, we give our full support. And almost everybody out there on this terrible, terrible disease that has taken far, far too many people away. And you think about society and the technology and the money and research. So hopefully this will help it a little further. But speaking of things, I do want to come to the aforementioned Mr. Sportswire, the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, who you heard earlier this past week on Sportswire Radio with some of the guys in CCW, including the Tyrant King, Mitch Taylor, also the Underground Heavyweight Champion, Jack Bartley. So let's come up to him. He says, my ears were burning. Who's chatting? So you have anything you'd like to say to Mr. Sportswire, the lawman, Kyle Kennedy? Obviously, you kind of touched upon you and him, I guess, in this meeting that's going to come up here for Wrestling Appreciation Society. And I guess it'll be in private, but there'll be cameras. But anything that you'd like to say now that Mr. Sportswire is with us?
Before I address Kennedy, I do just want to say this Mitchell dude, the Tyrant King, I don't know how you deal with him, Tom.
I'm gonna be honest. I gotta be honest. He looked like he was like a B-level Village People impersonator. He had what looked like a crown that I might have seen purchased, like, and no disrespect to anybody, like in the East Village in Manhattan here in New York, and he looked like almost like a 50-year-old Stone Cold Steve Austin knockoff. I mean, in fact, I'll even go further. He looked like a 50-year-old knockoff of Gilbert. Gilbert, of course, who was a Goldberg knockoff. I mean, this guy, certainly was as knockoff as a knockoff. So, CCW, next time, James Barris, love you. At least get us Franco Varga, because Franco Varga was a big star who we had here on Sportswire Radio. That was a big deal. Let's hope we can get somebody bigger than the Tyrant King, Mitchell Taylor, next time to one of our shows. But that's another time, another place. But yeah, that was an interesting experience, to say the least.
No, I have to agree. We will go on to Kyle, but I've got one thing for the Tyrant King. If you get your crown from the Dollar Tree, give me a hell yeah! Anyway, Kyle Kennedy. Kyle Kennedy is another story. Because
all right,
I'm floating this ring about, but it's the Infinity Gauntlet, okay?
Wow, okay.
Each stone represents one thing. And each meanings of these stones is very relevant to Mr. Kyle Kennedy. Let's go through them quite quickly. Power. All right. When it comes to power, you might be bigger, you might be stronger, but my power is in here, which is the second stone, the Mind Stone, because I will do everything within my mind's capabilities to try and knock some sense into you come deadline, Kyle, because this was not needed. This was not needed. You keep going around saying that I called you out, I did this, I did that, but I took time out of my way to interview you, and because you decided to disrespect the Wrestling Appreciation Society, I then issued a challenge against you to see if the society, aka Kyle Kennedy, could stand up to the Wrestling Appreciation Society, aka D to the O to the double N, i.e. Donnie Franchize. Right, next one. Soul. Again, I might not have the physical capability right now, but much like my general life, I guess you can call it, I was actually offered by NSAW to appear at Nuclear Winter. Did I accept it? No. because my soul, my heart, and my mind is targeted on you, Kyle. Until I am done with you, I don't want any further distractions. I'd rather give some other guy who deserves an opportunity to be spotlighted my shot being at their show to be able to take you out cleanly and swiftly at deadline. Now, let's go to reality because this is a very, very big one. Kyle, the reality is in this situation, you are not the good guy. You are not the victim. You are the man that decided to disrespect what Travis Cox, what Matthew Edgington, what Clinton Mandaza, and what Sammy Rice developed to bring people together and make their dreams a reality. That's the reality of the situation. The reality for you is at deadline, you ain't gonna be lifting your hand up high. Heck, you couldn't even hold the fucking title up for like 2 minutes. And I apologize for the very bad cursing, Tom, but you couldn't hold the belt up high for longer than 2 minutes. That was a reality then. And the reality at deadline is I'm going to be the one getting the 1, 2, 3. And then we talk about space. When it comes to deadline, there's only those 4 posts. That's the only space you're going to have. There's no more running away. There's no hiding and talking behind a phone. It's going to be in the ring, in the squared circle. That's the only space between me and you is in those ropes. And trust me, I hope you're not claustrophobic, Kyle, because that's a short space for me to kick your you-know-what in. And finally, time. Time is of the essence, Kyle. Time is of the essence. And although I may have only been at 1 training session so far, I'm going to utilize the time I have now to build and improve upon myself. So come April 29th, you will finally be revealed to all the WAS audience for the man that you truly are. Because, Kyle, in my eyes, right now, as it goes, you are a fraud. And if I have to prove that in front of unlimited capacity at the University of Huddersfield Sports Hall, I will do that.
All right, couple things I want to unpack here, and the lawman has a few things to say, and I'll get to the lawman though in a second. But the first thing I want to bring up, which is the obvious, is that the society, I'm sure you're aware of, has the numbers game, right? I'm sure you're aware of to the fact that the society right now, and you kind of know what I'm about to say here. I think they're more deadlier, they're more stronger than they've ever been before. The bloodline has nothing on them right now in their viciousness. In fact, the bloodline right now are figuring out who's an Usi and who's not an Usi. The society, though, right now, I mean, I think they've one up themselves on a whole new level right now because you got the lawman, obviously, you just spoke about. Callum Jackson, who was with us on Wednesday, he's on a whole new level. Remus Kane and Richard Knights. I mean, are you concerned, though, even though it's going to be in your building, your home coming up April the 29th, even with all the different things, the meeting and the privacy and the professionalism that might be at Wrestling Appreciation Society, but the numbers game is with the society. I mean, how do you combat the numbers, though?
I may not like Kyle. I may not like Majakester. May not like Remus Kane. I may not like Richard Knights. But the one thing I can say is that no matter how much I don't like anyone, I can respect them. They have reinvented, they have brought their game up to a new level. And yes, they
Like
are.
I said, the bloodline are talking about who's an Usi and who's not, but the society are going out there and they're just beating people to a bloody pulp.
And again, if that's the way that you choose to go about it and it's actually getting you places like it did Kyle for 2 minutes once again, then fine, I can respect it. I mean, I wouldn't personally do it, but I'd respect it. If we're really talking about, if we're comparing the bloodline and the society, none of them guys are Usi. None of them are Usi. They're all Doocy, if you ask me. Dookie. But I can respect the fact that they have do what they need to do. They've all earned their spot in the wrestling business. I can't take that away from them. And the most I've heard from everybody in the wrestling scene right now is this kid hasn't earned his spot. He's not stepped in a ring.
And that's been said here. Listen, we've had different people on in different companies with different champions, and they're like, who are these wrestling appreciation society guys? I mean, Callum himself said, I mean, Callum's been in this for 10 years, and he's like, listen, I've been doing this, and I've wrestled in some big-time companies, and who's Donnie Franchize to come on and come across the way he is? And the lawman has a few things to say about that. I'm going to bring that up. So, I mean, there is a point out there that we've had people on here firsthand say that about you and others.
And again, all I can say is these are professionals. Callum is a veteran. I might not like the guy, but he's put his body on the line for like 10 plus years. He's been in Black Cat, he's been around the block, TNT, etc., etc. And although I don't like him, I can respect the effort he's put in. All I'm trying to do is not show off, not boast, not try and make myself higher than them. I'm trying to prove at Deadline that I can step in there and do what they do. I'm not saying I'm going to be a professional first time round, but as long as I can get it through their skulls that I deserve to be in that ring and prove it to them and the audience, that's all that I'm trying to do.
I'll give you that. I'll give you to the fact that at least you're saying, you know what, I'm not going to be at their level, and nobody is their first time. Listen, I'm doing this for just about 4 years. From when I first started to where I am right now at this moment, it's night and day. So let me get to a bunch of comments because I am behind and I want to get people in basically to give them an opportunity. First, let me go to the lawman, Kyle Kennedy, because he's obviously got a lot to say. I'm not your biggest hater. You did this. You called me out. You put me on your show. You announced me for your roster. I was perfectly fine doing my part, attending the show and kicking some ass. It's just a shame yours is the one that I have to kick. He also then goes out, you're far too arrogant and self-entitled for someone who's barely been around for a cup of coffee. Shut up and sit down again. I didn't need or want this. You jumped on the lawman, not the other way around. You called me out. End of it now. I have to hurt you, boy, and I'm not going to hold back. You deserve this. How disappointed your mother would be if she was still here. But it's okay. Those left of your family and other friends will witness you in my world and getting embarrassed, just like you're embarrassing yourself now. Was Chris, whatever his name is, Matt Clinton, and you, A, can thank me, and B, kiss my fill in the blanks. Also, Callum Jakester says, oh, look, he's got a ring. Calm down, MJF. Tim Smith says, don't mess with the franchise. We've also got here, of course, one of the other members of the society, of course, Richard Knight says, this man rambles like an old school Scooby-Doo villain. Yeah, I mean, you do in a way almost look like Matthew Lillard from the Scooby-Doo movie. I mean, I'm not trying to pile on you, but was that kind of the look you're going for with the shaggy hair and the mustache and all the stuff? I mean, you're on mute there. You might want to unmute yourself.
You see, errors do happen. Apparently, the franchise isn't only not professional in the ring, but on tech as well. So that's why.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna give you a pass on the technical difficulty part, but I'll bring up some more comments because enough about me. Have they really upped themselves though? Soon as one is on a losing streak, they kick him to the side like that other guy who I don't even remember who he is at this point. I mean, so certainly that's the case. And Callum Jakester says, is that an actual question? They got rid of the other guy because he's a piece of crap inside of the ring and outside of it. They got themselves an actual wrestler who knows what the hell he's doing. I think that when it comes to Callum Jakester, he's added more to the society in I think like 2 weeks than they had with that other dude who was in it for just about 9 or 10 months, maybe even longer. So I could not agree with Callum more on that. And of course, the cult of Killjoy himself, Mr. Dan Robertson, who certainly has gone on and said Grandpa Tommy Dillon will be holding a title in certainly the world class of nonstop action wrestling for only a few more months, says, oh my God, he looks like a prison bus driver. The cult respects the fact you're stepping in the ring, but Kennedy is right. You're going to get your butt handed to you, maybe even by the Lord and Savior. Of course, he's going to be there April the 29th, and Michael says, yet you lost at All Hallows Eve. Yeah, okay. I think he's referring to Mr. Sportswire himself, the lawman Kyle Kennedy. But if you do like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, do give us a like and follow anytime on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. We'll be back here with more coverage here on Sportswire Radio tomorrow night, New York time, Monday morning, UK time, because we'll be speaking Halloween, trick or treat with Wrestling Championship Entertainment, of course, here in the state of Wisconsin. We'll have on the Universal Wisconsinite Grand Slam champion Craven Rage and JDT. They certainly had a match that was one for the ages. We'll talk about it here at Fight or Fright Day 1 for Wrestling Championship Entertainment. It has been released on their YouTube page at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. So make sure you give them a follow and like on Facebook and YouTube as well. So I'm excited to be speaking with them as well. We have Chris Murphy coming back on in the house here on Sportswire Radio within the next week. We'll also have LWF coverage Friday with Wildfire Nate Reese and the Scenario Nathan Gunn. And the Scenario Nathan Gunn just wrestled this past week in Bentley. So we'll have a lot to get into here with him. So looking forward to all of that here on Sportswire Radio. But right now, we are with the franchise himself, Donnie Franchize, in his first interview of his wrestling career. And of course, he is with our friends over at Wrestling Appreciation Society. Cannot stress enough the fact you need to like and follow, support Wrestling Appreciation Society. Their upcoming event is April the 29th. It is called Deadline. You go to WrestleSociety.hub for more information on Instagram. Also, Facebook, like their page, YouTube as well. And we're speaking all things related to that here with Donnie Franchize. And Donnie, I did want to ask you something when it comes to Nonstop Action Wrestling, because you were training there, you were at the show, and there is a title that they have announced and that's going to be coming out as a part of the company for their second singles belt called the Northern Division title. And from afar, I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I'm very happy you asked me that question. I can't lie.
I asked it.
I want to first address some of these comments, right? The Scooby-Doo villain one, I mean, and your reference of Shaggy, that's not an insult. I'm taking that. That's
I'll tell you one thing. Off the air, I believe Freddie Prinze was in the Scooby-Doo movie, and he sleeps next to Sarah Michelle Gellar. So I guess from that standpoint, he did okay in his life, and he was a WWE writer for quite a while as well. So that's not really not much of a diss towards you, really.
No, I mean, if I, Richard, remind you so much of Scooby-Doo, which if you even know about it, you clearly remember it and are very fond of it. I'm sure you're going to remember this face for a long time. That's all I've got to say on that. NSAW, the Northern Division Championship. Now, I said that I need to get rid of Kyle before I can move on to anything else, but trust me, this is a title I've been waiting for the British wrestling scene to come around. As a Northerner, as a true Yorkshireman myself, I feel like I have all of the things checked on the tick list to be entitled to this belt. I'm not saying I am entitled. I'm saying that I'm from Yorkshire. I love Yorkshire. And all I need is a Northern Division Championship to complete that list. So I promise you, if NSAW want to call me up and put me on a part of their roster or whatever, I am more than happy to get involved in some type of match or way to get into that picture when it comes to the Northern Division Championship, because the Northern Division Championship is the championship I feel I could bring the most honor, prestige, and legacy to. And I really would like to get my hands on that.
Well, is there a way you're figuring out on potentially how to get your hands on that, or no spoiler alerts here on Sports?
No, I mean, if NSAW management are happy with what happens at Deadline, because, you know, I can't just storm in there and ask for a spot on the roster. If they're impressed with what I've done, I wouldn't mind them giving me a call up and saying, would you like to be a part of the roster? And hell yeah, I would, because they do amazing stuff and they've got a lot of good
the company,
talent.
Listen, it's another sellout. You think about the talent that the company has. Obviously, the society, we spoke about Dan Roberts, who's been a friend with us, Connor Cage, the new look Champ Rogers. I mean, for a minute, I had to figure out, was it like 1998 Taz? Was it CM Punk Part 2? I mean, I was trying to figure out here if that really was Champ Rogers. It was him, of course. the legendary Sean Only, who Callum Jakester was in the ring with, and of course Billy O'Keefe, who we know is the Blackheart Wrestling champ. You got so many people there. Listen, Dante O'Cara, got to give him a mention. JPR, who, by the way, the UKW heavyweight champion, is a part of things. Tommy Dillon, who's still undefeated in GTM also, and he's our champion there. And young Horace. I mean, it's a long roster of talent that Nonstop Action Wrestling has put together. So I do want to commend and tip my hat to Joshua Snow, to Richard Knights, and everybody else that is involved in that company that has continued to roll on here. And also, let me get to some more comments, because I do have people that continue to want to comment, and that's always a good thing, right? And Matt Royale says, Kyle needs humbling. I know Donnie can do it, but in the slight chance he doesn't, be sure I'll be waiting to finish the job. Ooh, very, very strong words. And Michael also says, if I remember correctly, Callum, I was at the event and Billy O'Keefe pinned you 1, 2, 3. So they did upgrade. No, they did upgrade, though, regardless of that outcome. And we spoke about that because originally we didn't know if Sean Only was going to make the show, because we thought it looked like he was going to be delayed and not able to make it. So there might be an excuse there. We also say here from the lawman Kyle Kennedy, actually, Mikey, I won both my matches. The main event got restarted because Enso are too scared to have their biggest title with the society. Enough said. Some have said that. I'm sure that we'll talk about that here on future shows. Oh no, I lost the match where I was told Sean Only was no longer available, and then he decided to show up last minute and was knocked out. Oh no, I just can't handle someone pointing out I lost. Now, about to you step in a ring, you don't be chatting. It was aimed at Callum, but I can understand the confusion. I think he's talking to Callum. You're not even worthy of stepping in the ring, you clown. How are you even putting yourself in contention for the Northern Division title? And Callum also made his stakes claim for that title, and Dan Robertson says, you'll get your shot, but much, much later. King Killjoy of the North is first. Whatever that means, I have to batter you, Tory Boy Royale, or anyone else. I wouldn't want to be one of the Tories these days. I would want to say of anything else, being objective, and I do have a background in politics, I'm pretty sure the polls say I would not want to be a member of the Tories right now. That's just being objective, not trying to be political. I think the numbers say I wouldn't want to be one of the Tories, but that's for another conversation, another channel. And the lawman Kyle Kennedy says, I can't just storm in the ring there and be a part of the roster. Well, you had no issue trying to hijack that show, idiot. And I want to say one more thing before I come back to all this. Great job by Nonstop Action Wrestling by continuing to put themselves in the forefront of the conversation with the Northern Division title. This title reminds me very much of what the WWF used to have in the European title, where you had the British Bulldog as the champion. And I guess for a while, D'Lo Brown was the European champion. I guess he was from Europe, and he was defending the title all over. And that's what's great about this title, because it's not just about England. It's about Ireland. It's about Wales and all these other places that make the United Kingdom so great. So you can follow Nonstop Action Wrestling on Facebook at Nonstop Action Wrestling, Nonstop Action Wrestling Universe on their Facebook group as well. Also, NSAW Wrestling UK as well on Instagram, NSAW Rest_UK as well on Twitter, YouTube, Nonstop Action Wrestling for all the great things that the company does as well. But, I want to ask you this question, Donnie, because I know it's pertaining to the lawman Kyle Kennedy, but I'll get to all these comments back and forth. But there was something I wanted to address with you, which we broke on the air, I'm sure you're aware of, with Callum Jakester when we had him on Wednesday's show. And the kind of unfortunate news, and I want to take a step back from this whole back and forth between you and the lawman, because I know you guys don't like each other, and the tension, I can feel it, and I can cut it with a knife. But there was some unfortunate news that the lawman Kyle Kennedy had to postpone his appearance in CCW's show last night there. Obviously, he was a part of the Underground World title match there, which was one of the main events against Jack Bartley, the current champion, and the Tyrant King, Mitch Taylor. And also, he's not going to be taking any other new bookings other than the two shows he's booked for this year, which is certainly Blackheart's show next weekend, and then Nuclear Winter coming up on the 17th of December. So there was some unfortunate things he had to say in that post as to why that's the case. And from afar, wanted to get your thoughts, Donnie Franchize, on the news about the lawman Kyle Kennedy taking a step back from future bookings after next weekend and December the 17th at Nuclear Winter for Nonstop Action Wrestling.
As I've stated with the society in general, and the Jakes, the Knight, Remus Kane, and Kyle, I don't like them. Doesn't mean that I don't respect them. If you've got something going on, you take yourself out of whatever it is that you need to. Now, I'm not going to sit here and call Kyle a coward for looking after himself, protecting his mental health, and just giving himself a bit of resting time. I ain't going to do that because I don't like him. We were friends. So the little dignity that I have for him, I have to, I not only do I have to, I want to address that. I 100% respect what Kyle's done. But I do not want this to be an excuse for Kyle to have an easy way out when it comes to deadline. So take all the time you want, recuperate, just fill up your batteries, get them put in, and get recharged when it comes to deadline. But I am not going to let this opportunity to prove myself through all the naysayers wrong. I'm not going to let that slip through my fingers, Kyle. So I might not like you, but I respect this decision. But I really want you to stick to your word and prove you're going to give me the beating that everyone keeps saying you're going to by still turning up at deadline.
Let me ask you, though, a question, and I have a bunch of comments. I'll get to them, and thank you, everybody, for commenting and obviously tuning in here on Sportswire Radio with the first interview of the career of Donnie Franchize, pro wrestling star from Wrestling Appreciation Side. But let me ask you, though, a question on that, because there is kind of an underbelly here that in professional wrestling that accidents happen, things do happen, there's injuries out there, and you haven't wrestled yet. The lawman Kyle Kennedy has put his body on the line. He's had several matches, and he's basically telling you what he's put his body through. And he doesn't have as many matches, let's say, as a Tommy Dillon or a Disciple who's the GTM world champion or a Callum Jackson. He's saying, like, listen, you know, there are things that can happen out there. And he's still a young man. I mean, are you concerned, though, that that could happen to you, though, and that you are putting your body out there on the line and you're a young man and these things do happen and people think, oh, it's wrestling, it's fake. No, it's not fake, because these guys and gals really do get hurt out there. Things can happen. I mean, I was listening to an interview with Tommy Dreamer a couple of days ago, and he was talking about the fact of the pile driver and how wrestlers take this pile driver and they don't take it the right way, and you could be paralyzed. I mean, things can really happen. Not that the lawman's paralyzed, but the point is that injuries happen and you're stepping in the ring for your first time. Are you concerned about any of this at all?
I am concerned. I think anyone that isn't concerned or worried that something could happen or doesn't have the mindset that potentially something could go wrong is not human. We are human. We have fears. And yes, I am entering a world where we entertain people by beating the ever living what out of each other. And yes, that can backlash. That can hurt. It does hurt. It does hurt, and it could potentially put me in a very bad position. But saying that, my mind is in the game. I am aware that this is going to happen, or it could happen, maybe potential, not definite, but it could. And by utilizing that mindset, I'm going to make sure not to burn myself out, not to hurt myself, because at the end of the day, I'm there to put on a show. I'm not there to just recklessly destroy my body to sell a few tickets. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to be precise. I'm going to get in there, do what I need to do, and get out so I can add longevity to my career and get to the very top where I want to be. And as I mentioned with the Northern Division Championship, if NSAW were impressed what I did at Deadline, you know what? Another break out there. Drew McIntyre, what did he do? He got denied by the big leagues. He got kicked out. What did he do?
He got released and he wound up having a second career.
He grinded and grinded and grinded until.
Well, how about Emma this past Friday on SmackDown? She had been released by the WWE about 5 years ago, and she was pretty much in Impact Wrestling for all that time. And her first match in a comeback, goes out there against Ronda Rousey. So sometimes things happen. You go away for a while and you have to learn. And we'll see if that's you or not. But certainly, again, we want to give our well wishes to the lawman Kyle Kennedy. We hope that he's happy and finds success in whatever he does. He will always do that. I am sure of that. And there is no question that we'll find out if Donnie Franchize will have some success. Let me get to a bunch of comments here. Also, we have here, I'm not completely against this society, but I do agree with everything you do. I'll have to say on that. No matter what our history is with each other, let's not lose focus on the point of deadline. Amen to Connor Cage. Connor Cage, the voice of reason there. Callum Majakes says, shut up, Golden Boy. I'm assuming that's either to you or Connor Cage. They used to call Connor Cage the Golden Boy.
Yeah, Connor Cage, the Golden Boy.
I figured that. I'm glad I'm not the only one. All right. And for the fact, no, I don't agree with everything the society does, to clarify. Okay, I got you on that. And we appreciate it. We'll definitely bring the lawman Kyle Kennedy back on in the next couple of weeks. I do want to talk about that. I do want to talk about that announcement and talk about some of those things. I do think that they're important because I do think also at the end of the day, professional wrestlers, and I continue to say this because I've interviewed countless amount of wrestlers, and I had a chance to interview a guy that had a brief stint in the WWE for what it's worth, and a guy that wrestled, for I would say in the mid 2000s, also had a run as an extra in Impact, and Chad Parham, and he trained with AJ Styles at NWA Wildside, and the amount of pain that is put on your bodies by all these different wrestlers. I don't think people really understand and realize what a professional wrestler does. It's not like playing football around the world. It's not like shooting a basketball. It's not like going out there and holding a microphone. It's not like holding a tennis racket. What professional wrestlers do, you're going to be stepping in that ring, Donnie Franchize, for the first time on April the 29th. You could say everything that you just said, but things can still happen out there. So certainly what the professional wrestling scene does and what they do to put entertainment on and put their bodies through the live for their fans, certainly have to give them all the respect in the world here. This match with you is the easy way out. I'd much prefer a tougher challenge, but no, you had to feed your ego. Your missus would put up a better fight than you. Well, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one here because I'm not going to get in the middle of misses and mothers. And Michael says, but I do wish Kyle well. He has to focus on his own well-being. No one should push themselves to much. Health and well-being matters as well, because they always say the most important possession you have in life, it's not how much pounds you have, how much dollars, it's your health. So certainly we wish all of that here for the lawman Kyle Kennedy and much, much more. But I did want to ask you this question here before we get to closing thoughts and anything else you want to share. I mean, is there anything else that you may want to address toward anybody, whether it's Nonstop Action Wrestling, Wrestling Appreciation Society? Is there anything else that you would like to address here, Donnie, and anything else that you may want to say to anybody listening and watching?
Honestly, I think it's a case of, Kyle, you are going for a long time, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. You go rest up and do all of that. But I want you to turn up deadline at your best. I'm talking physical, mental, wrestling wise. I want you at your best, because if I can't beat you at your best, I don't think that it's even worth me stepping foot much further into the industry. I don't like you. I've said this throughout the whole thing, but I respect you and I know the passion you have for this business. And we've been back and forth over social media the last few weeks and months doing this and that. But it's all going to culminate at deadline, April 29th, 2023. And until then, I have a little proposition for you, Tom. I feel like if Kyle Kennedy is out, I should be in. Forget about the old Mr. Sportswire. This is your new Mr. Sportswire, right?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, listen, we can certainly figure something out, but he's still Mr. Sportswire. I mean, until then, he is Mr. Sportswire. I mean, listen, he can still talk professional wrestling. I mean, he is a wrestler. He's been a world champion. I mean, certainly, let's say he's taking a sabbatical for a few months. If he wants to comment on things in the world of professional wrestling, he's still there. We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out to call you. Maybe we'll call you the Franchize of Sportswire Radio. How about that? You want to be called the Franchize of
Yeah, I
Sportswire Radio?
mean, I can be the franchise because whenever the franchise on your show, the world knows. So,
Listen. Everybody's got a nickname. Everybody's got something. Listen, Vince McMahon used to always come up with names for somebody as well. So there's no question that we'll certainly figure out something here. But he still is Mr. Sportswire, the lawman, Kyle Kennedy. You can follow, by the way, Mr. Justice Kyle Kennedy on Instagram, the lawman K Kennedy on Twitter as well. Also, please like his pages on YouTube as well, also Facebook. And the X Walk, were you doing a Degeneration X to basically say,
no, don't promote him, Tom. Don't promote him.
He was on Monday's show. How could you not promote him? You got to call it down the line. We're promoting you. We're telling people to follow
All
you
right.
at the _franchise
Okay.
on Instagram, WrestleSociety.hud on Instagram as well. So we want everybody to follow everybody because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Bro, a 50% me would finish you. So basically, he's saying a half of the lawman Kyle Kennedy would finish you. Boy, you got your work cut out for. I know you did training at Nonstop Action Wrestling a couple of weeks ago there in Swinton, but you're going to have to really train like there's no tomorrow. You're going to have to train. Listen, I watched the Jake Paul fight and I put it out there on Facebook. You're going to have to train like Jake Paul. You're going to have to train like Jake Paul and Logan Paul combined because Logan Paul next weekend is at Crown Jewel against Roman Reigns. And something tells me here Logan Paul's not going to have the same kind of luck that Jake Paul has had, but you're going to have to be training like there's no tomorrow. I hope that you're going to be at every training session you could have possible. I hope you spoke to Sean only last weekend when he was there because he's the head trainer of GT Ministries. You need to make sure that you are training like there is literally no tomorrow.
That's the plan, Tom. As I've said, I'm going to utilize every single moment I can get to be in that physical peak, in that physical shape, in that physical condition to go into this match and show Kyle Kennedy once and for all that I am at least on par with him. I don't care about being better than him. It's not that for me. It's just being able to establish that I'm going to step in that ring and afterwards he's going to realize why I'm worthy of being between those ropes.
Well, I'll tell you what, in one of the famous taglines for a movie called Wayne's World was, "We're not worthy! We're not worthy!" Will that be the case for Donnie Franchize? It sounds like maybe not. It sounds like Donnie Franchize here has certainly said that he's going to step up to the plate and he's going to do his best. And we hope at the end of the day it is going to be a great match. And of course, I want to make sure, as always, that we support our friends over at Wrestling Appreciation Society. And I certainly give my full endorsement for anything we can do to help raise money. Obviously, we'll have more interviews here on Sportswire with everybody from the company over the next coming weeks and months. So we certainly, I am sure, are going to be very confident that not only will we raise 750 pounds, but we'll raise a lot more than that. So I have a very, very good feeling that we are going to, yes, raise that and some here. So certainly, I'm not going to do the, what was it, when Daniel Bryan was retiring for the first time, I guess, in the WWE, and I think he had his wife there, Brie Bella, and he was saying she did, yes. I'm not going to go like that far, but we certainly will imagine that we'll do that with the money and some. And we also have here another great show. As always, thank you, Andrew, for all of your support. While I'm here, get your GM to set a date for our little meeting. Don't worry, no physicality. I promise I'm a lawman of my word. Matt Royale has said here, Donnie has put the work in so far. He's getting up to a standard that he needs to be on. It's a long road, but in 6 months, he'll be wrestling circles around Kyle. Another reason why you need to support and follow Wrestling Appreciation Society, because this is the match. Again, forget about Anderson Silva and Jake Paul. Forget about Canelo. Forget about Paul and Reigns. Forget about Lashley and Lesnar. Forget about MJF and Moxley. Forget about anybody else that you may see. This is going to be the match that people are going to want to put their pounds on between Donnie Franchize, the Franchise of Wrestling Appreciation Society, and Mr. Sportswire, the lawman Kyle Kennedy, the former Nonstop Action Wrestling world-class champion. It's going to be a main event that is one for the ages. You are going to want to be there in Huddersfield. This is going to be a match that I would put all my pounds on, all my worth, to make sure to get your butt down there. Go out and buy a ticket. Go and support this company. This is the company that is going to be the place to be in 2023. I can promise you for sure. On par with me, give me a break. You're not even on the level below me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been an action-packed Sportswire Radio first appearance for Donnie Franchize himself. And the franchise, I'm going to give you the floor. Anything else that you want to plug, share, say for us here in Sportswire Radio, I certainly hope that you'll be back on with us here for more. Obviously, we have this big meeting that you and Mr. Kennedy are going to have, and I'm sure we'll get some blow-by-blow analysis from both sides, and we'll certainly bring you back, I'm sure, for that, as well as Mr. Sportswire Kyle Kennedy. So I turn it over to you, my friend, and the floor is yours. Anything that you want to plug, share, say, and fire away, my friend.
I'm a generous guy. I'll support WAS first. So Wrestling Appreciation Society. You can go follow them on Instagram at wrestle.hud. WrestleSociety.hud. You can go on Wrestling Appreciation Society on Facebook. You can also do UOH Wrestling Appreciation Society on YouTube. I always forget that one. Then you can follow me. That's D to the O to the double N, i.e. Donnie Franchize. On Facebook, it is The Donnie Franchize, at The Donnie Franchize. And on Twitter and Instagram, it's at __franchise.
All right. Anything else you'd like to share for us here tonight on Sportswire? Anything else you want to say before you get out here? I'm sure the first of many, many interviews here that you'll have with us and other places, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, I'm sure the committee would probably kick my ass if I didn't mention donate to our Cancer Research UK page that we've got going on. The goal is £750. The franchise is going to try his hardest. The franchise already donated money, putting in the pot.
Wow, okay, you've already gone out there and
I'm doing my bit. I really want you guys to try and help out because the committee are really behind this, and if I don't plug that, I feel like they might take me off the show. So please give to our Cancer Research UK page. It would mean the world, and that's ultimately what I'm doing it for, fighting for a good cause, but also to silence the law.
No question that this is definitely a cause that we fully endorse here on Sportswire. And anything else we can do, we will most certainly do that. So I encourage everybody, again, to go to all those great places here and certainly support Donnie Franchize and the rest of the gang, Matt, as well. And certainly many of the crossovers from Nonstop Action Wrestling into Wrestling Appreciation Society. So you are here on Sportswire Radio here with Donnie Franchize here. In his first interview, he speaks about the Lawman Kyle Kennedy and their upcoming face-to-face for the first time. He also speaks about the Northern Division Championship here of Nonstop Action Wrestling that is coming up here. Also his training, his journey, everything else that has led to the moment coming up April the 29th at Deadline, where we will see him and the Lawman Kyle Kennedy in the ring. Also, General Manager Chris Walker as well. And I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce, and we'll be back here tomorrow night, Monday morning, UK time, with the likes of Craven Rage and JDT. In fact, I stand corrected. It's Tuesday morning, so it'll be Tuesday morning UK time. So certainly we're figuring out the different times, because I know that you guys are ahead of us with daylight savings, so that means we'll set our clocks back next week. So that'll be the difference as to why I should have said Tuesday morning rather than Monday morning. But we'll be back here also Thursday with Disciple. I have to mention Disciple is back Thursday. His first interview since he won the GTM World Championship from Gareth Angel, who I don't know what's going on with him since. But Disciple's going to have a lot to say. And we'll have Chris Murphy right before that, to an action-packed show. So if you thought things were deadly tonight, you wait till tomorrow night with Craven Rage and JDT. Then you go to Thursday with Disciple and Chris Murphy. And then Friday, LWF coverage with Nate Reese and Nathan Gunn. So it is going to be a big week on Sportswire ahead. I'm excited about all of it. If you're on sportnarium.com/play, you go back to your regularly scheduled programming here in a few minutes. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And thank you to Donnie Franchize and our friends over at Wrestling Appreciation Society. Good morning, good night, good evening here on the number one global radio station. And Bye-bye, guys. And that's, I think, what Mr. Sportswire's final words are, final parting shots. And we'll see what Disciple has to say about that, I'm sure, Thursday night on the number one global radio station, that is Sportswire Radio. And with us here just now is Donnie Franchize of Wrestling Appreciation Society.